Good evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. As you might have noticed, I did restore and or clean up quite a few meters recently. Now for my usual hobby level, running their calibration process with whatever I have that is close to the required reference is fine. At least I can get all the meters to display the same ballpark like that. But there's this nagging feeling that it should be slightly better. Now what can I do about it? Proper references are way out of my price range. So what's at least close to a voltage and current reference and close to my price range that my wallet can take the hit? What I was looking for is apparently called a calibrator. These devices provide reasonably accurate voltages and currents, both AC and DC. And most of them also can provide some reference resistor values. New ones are well within the 5-digit price tag range too. So my best bet is to find a used, semi-broken one and go from there. What I found was quite a fluke. Model 5100B to be exact. It is most certainly not a mobile unit with a hefty 35 kg in fully assembled state. When it arrived, I had a hard time getting it on the bench for disassembly. According to the eBay listing, it was fully stocked, i.e. it has the IEEE option as well as the wideband AC option installed, but it does not work for any AC or higher voltage ranges. Add that to the general dirty exterior, it's a real fixer-upper, alright. After removing the case lid, we are greeted with another lid. Yes, shielding galore with this one. Turns out that the case is actually a double one. The outer case is mains earth grounded, the inner one is a shield that is referenced to the output pins. And since the shielding is also almost a millimeter thick metal all around, we can see where the weight comes from. And once all of the screws are removed, the inner lid lifts right out and reveals a rather large assortment of plug-in PCBs, along with two chunky transformers. I have a bit of déjà vu. Also, there are two vacant spots in the digital section where I have no clue if something is missing. Pulling all the modules out is the first step. It should lighten the load considerably, but since they have been sitting for so long, it takes quite a bit of leverage to make them move. There is no way stagehands' fingers can fit between them for a firm grip. The front-facing module, called the ranging module, is also carrying the binding posts. It won't come out unless one removes the front panel first. There are sliding brackets on this one, so it should slide forward and make room. The front panel has a rotary encoder. Sorta. They don't seem to have been that common when this device was made, so this is a homebrew style one. The underside contains an interesting PCB. It's aptly labeled diagonal bus. They really took shielding to the next level here. Well, the bus PCB could be a bit easier to remove, and yes, they are. One just needs to remove the rear panel first, but I didn't see that this was possible at this time. Removing the main bus PCB next, just to find the next shielding layer underneath. That's why the top says only unscrew the squared screws. The overall layout is simple. All the pins are one-to-one connections, with some going to the power supply section via the ribbon cables and some going to the rear end extension socket. The two ribbon cables for the power supply are stuck in the old rubber grommets. I'll just leave them in here to prevent damage. Now, can you say DC filter caps? I know you can, and so can these cans. And the power distribution board, also removing these capacitors. Now for the front panel. The PCB has a cutout on the right side and a column of additional buttons. This is for the 5101B model, called the storage model, which has a built-in tape drive for storing test sequences. Apart from the front panel, the tape drive and associated PCB, the only difference is that the controller board has some RAM on it too. Cleanup time! I start with the base plate. The mains transformer is quite a beast. It is multi-voltage on the input and also has quite a few taps and windings on the secondary side. The transformer wires are soldered to the PCBs on the side. I'll avoid desoldering them unless I have to. Cleaning the power supply board and the mains input section. Now, here's a mental problem. I really like to put new capacitors into these old devices, but the bunch in here would be almost half of what I paid for the device itself. So, after visual validation, I try to power them at their nominal voltage for some time to see if anything develops, and if they can hold a charge. None of my capacitor meters goes that high. The mains power switch gets the full treatment. And yes, there's quite a bit of scorching going on. That transformer packs quite a punch for that poor little switch. And here's a problem. This trace here is supposed to connect the transformer output with the regulator board, but it got crushed some time ago. This bit is exactly underneath the transformer shielding tin. I think it might have gotten hit during transport. Either way, it needs fixing. I checked on the line in question. It is called POP. And yes, it surely did pop. Or rather, no longer. Well, POP is short for Power On Preset. And it is essentially a reset pulse that is created on the regulator board based on this input from the transformer. Think of it as a power good style signal. It is used by all the cards in the analog section to force their relays into a safe, defined state so that during power on, even before the controller CPU has started, nothing dangerous can go to the outputs. Might this be the reason why some outputs don't work? I can hope, can't I? mounting the main filter caps again. They all check out, at least as far as I can tell. And now, mounting the power supply board again. I have to start somewhere, right? I put in the inner frame brace plate next. It adds a ton of mechanical stability to the base, and it also still has the power lines for the other section embedded. The main bus PCB is next. I fixed the shielding plate first with the rounded screw holes. And then mount the sandwich to the base plate with the square holes. Paying close attention here when connecting the capacitors. If one of those blows, I'm sure the neighborhood would know. Would have been easier to mount them when the main PCB was still outside, but a creative angle does work. And now, the first tests. Getting ready to measure the voltages on the capacitors. My trace repair is a bit too close to the shield for comfort. I'll add a bit of Kapton tape for peace of mind. Also, checking the fuses first. And then bringing up the Variac slowly. I did set the voltage selection switches to 240 volts, but there's a twist. The 15 volt rails already are at 13 volt when I have my Variac not even at 100 volt. So, what gives? The schematic said, for 240 volts, use this configuration for the 3 switches. Down, down, up. What I didn't see was that this is not for the switch position, but rather for the colored dots on the switch. So the switches should be the other way around. So my configuration was actually for 100 volts. Yikes! Good thing I used my Variac and common sense. Cause whoever wrote the manual surely didn't use the latter. adding the other bus PCBs again so I can start testing the modules. This construction is a roller coaster for electrons. And this is a good time to conclude part 1. Join in next time for part 2. That transformer quite packs a punch words.